So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to preheat an oven to 180 degrees, and then we're just going to cut up our vegetables. Okay, so that's done. One thing I will say is make sure your carrots are cut thicker than your peppers, because your peppers are going to cook a lot quicker, and these are going to be in the same like roasting dish. So yeah, make sure that. We're going to move all our vegetables over here. Make sure you separate out your onions so you get these kind of like little shoestringy things, because they'll just like melt and caramelize in the pan as everything cooks. We're going to add a nice little pinch of salt and like a good grind of pepper with the oil, and then we're going to add these boys. Now these are the MVPs. Fennel seeds, like fucking just drown it. Like that's good. And then we're going to toss all this around in the oil. We're going to wash our potatoes so we get rid of any of the starch that's on them. You don't need that in your life. Just get them nice and clean and happy and squeaky and lovely and good. And then we're going to dry them off. So here you have a couple options. You can use a fryer for your potatoes like I will be doing, or you could put them in with some oil in a different baking tray and put them in 5 to 10 minutes before the other baking tray of vegetables, and you can maybe put some garlic and paprika in there if you wanted to. But yeah, I'm going to do it in the fryer. So I'm just drying my potatoes. You don't want them to be too wet, because if you throw them in the oven, they're just going to end up soggy, or if you throw them in the fryer, all that water is going to make that fryer very unhappy. So yeah, dry your potatoes after washing them. Make sure they're nice and crisp and happy. Also, I forgot to say, I added a little sage to this too, because sage is dope. Yeah, that's about to go in the oven for maybe about 15 to 20 minutes on 180 degrees. I'm not 100% sure how long it is, so at the end of this, I'll tell you how long I'd left this in the oven, because I'll time it. But yeah, cool. If you feel inclined, you could add yourself some nice garlic too, and jumble all that up. Okay, so the fries are in, and so is the vegetable stuff. So yeah, it's going to be about 15 minutes until everything's going to be ready, but in about 10 minutes we're going to cook our pork or chicken, depending on how you want to do this. One thing worth mentioning is that right now, while everything's cooking, is a really good time to throw away all your bullshit that you've been using to cook or prepare, so you don't have to do anything once you finish eating. You just put your plate away and that's done. Nice. There is one last thing to chop. Get yourself the smallest onion you can find and chop it as small as you can. We're going to use that after we cook our meat, and it's going to be awesome. Cool. I did just try to film this, but like it steamed up the lens and everything. So about 7 minutes in, stir up your vegetables, because yeah, it'll be good to kind of like just turn them over so that one side isn't just like resting on the bottom the whole time. Normally I would cook this with chicken thigh, but today I'm going to be doing sausage meat because that's going to go out in a few days. If you're going to be doing chicken, which I do recommend, you can cook it the same way as I'm doing the sausage meat. Or if you're veggie, falafel totally works with this, and I've had that a few times too. Alright, heat up some oil in your pan. We don't need a lot, just enough to coat the bottom. It needs to be hot before we put the meat in because we're going to be browning it. A good way to tell is if you get your hand a little wet and you just like flick it, it'll make that noise. Cool. Right, so if you're doing pork meat, make sure you're breaking it up. We don't want big chunks, we want it to be kind of like mincy. Or if you're using chicken, just let it sit for a while and yeah, get that shit nice and caramelized. You can just let it sit there for a good like 2 minutes until it's got a crust on it. One tip I have for cooking pretty much any meat in a pan is let it sit every now and again. Don't move it around too much, because then you're going to get like brown bits that are just going to be super, super delicious. Right, so whenever you cook meat on a high heat in a pan, you're going to get what's called fond. I have fucking loads today because I used my shit pan, which I'm kind of regretting a little bit. But we're going to introduce the tiny onions to this with a little bit of, maybe a little bit of water, and then we're going to turn all that into a kind of sauce. All my sausage meat out, and I've turned the heat way down. You might notice there's like little bits of brown around here. There's actually fucking loads for me because I used my shitty pan. What we want to do is we want to add maybe a tiny bit of oil and the small onions to this. If you find that yours is as caked on as mine is, which is not good, what you can do is you can add a little bit of boiling water, and then essentially what you're doing is you're cleaning the pan with the onions, because all of this stuff at the bottom has fucking low. So you can see now that it's pretty much cleaned off the bottom. This is starting to look real nice, and I tell you, man, it smells amazing. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to this and go until the onions go brown, and then we're basically ready to plate up, because this shit should be ready. So I've slightly overdone my chips, but that's fine. I'm just going to like take all the oil off those because we don't want them to be too greasy. Woo! The vegetables look something like this. We've got like nice caramelized onions and peppers with some nice cooked through carrots. That's what they're called, carrots. That's a carrot. And the fennel seeds will have like been toasted and cooked in the oil. Banging, banging, banging. Yeah, just combine it all in a bowl, jumble it up, give it a little sprinkling of paprika because we're fancy, and then eat it. I do prefer it with chicken, as I said, but this is fucking good shit, and it's pretty well balanced-ish. Good times. Also, I did forget to say, put a little like sprinkle of salt and pepper at the end. Like, you won't regret it. It's just gonna give it that little bit of an extra push. Enjoy! Now, I'm no cooking wizard. I'm not putting this up here to be like, look at my cooking skills. I just think that it'd be really great if everybody would try cooking a little, and because it's the most rewarding thing in the world. It's like making music. It's just good preparation and good execution, gives you good food. Now, if this was something you enjoyed, then we should do this again. I'll bring up some more recipes that I've done. I would say don't do this with sausage meat. It wasn't anywhere near as good as it is with the chicken or the falafel, actually.